Daryl Morey looks to be in his bag again. The Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball operations continues to think outside the box for a way to improve this Sixers team and is reportedly showing interest in Reading, Pennsylvania native Lonnie Walker, who is currently playing over in Lithuania. I want to break down what the latest reports are saying, the likelihood of this becoming the case, and the key factor that this decision likely hitches on from the Sixers' perspective. So let's dive right into things here. I do want to start off with the report. Shout out to Mark Stein for saying that the Philadelphia 76ers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Miami Heat, Denver Nuggets, and Boston Celtics are said to be potential suitors for Lonnie Walker, per Mark Stein there. So obviously, to kind of give a little bit of backstory, we all know who Lonnie Walker is. This is a guy who's been around the NBA for a couple of years now. To dive into his stats specifically here, he did spend 6 seasons in the league, start off with the San Antonio Spurs, spent 4 years there, and then bounced around a little bit, spent a season with the Lakers, as well as a season with the Brooklyn Nets, and most recently played with the Boston Celtics in training camp, and things did not work out, mostly for the financial side of things. To kind of dive into that specifically, there's an article from basketballnews.com that says, after being waived by the Boston Celtics on October 19th, Walker was widely expected to join their G League affiliate, the Maine Celtics, sources tell Basket News. This would have kept his chances high for an in-season call-up to the Celtics, leaving the room open to sign a guaranteed deal later in the season. This was part of the initial plan. Walker's spot as the 15th player would have added about $10 million in luxury tax for the Celtics, so they aimed to move him to the G League first. Walker wasn't eligible for a two-way contract due to his 4+ years in the NBA. Most teams already had tight salary caps at the start of the season and wanted to maintain financial flexibility. His chances for an NBA deal could improve significantly after the February 6th trade deadline, when teams get a clearer view of their salary cap situation for the rest of the 24-25 season. Now, what I think we're seeing more so than ever, I think Lonnie Walker is the perfect example of this, is there's a lot of NBA quality talent that does not have a pathway to the league because of the effects of the new CBA. This is something that things are going to continue setting in for years to come, that it is going to take several seasons for, I think, the full effects of this CBA to establish itself, but it's not great from the standpoint. And that's really, you can point to the positives and negatives of this. For the Sixers specifically, Daryl Morey and the front office have done an excellent job getting ahead of this. That's a huge driving force to why Paul George is in a Sixers uniform right now, is the Los Angeles Clippers did not want to go above certain aprons and restrict themselves in the future, so elected to say, we're not giving you that contract, and the Sixers did manage to position themselves where they could offer that. Now, Lonnie Walker obviously is the situation on a much smaller scale, but what that also means is teams are less willing to put up punishment for, in reality, while I like Lonnie Walker, it's a rotational guy at best, that he's probably, on the best case scenario, a 7th or 8th man on a contending team roster, and I think that's probably a little bit high even. I think he's probably closer to that 9th or 10th. With that being said, he's absolutely an NBA talent and a guy that I would be interested to see in a Sixers uniform. Now, I did want to dive into the thoughts by Adam Aronson of the Philly Voice here, a guy who I love to hear his thoughts on the Sixers, very rapidly climbing up the rising stars on the Sixers beat here. And in Philly Voice, Sixers Adam writes, a player who has shown flashes of promise across 6 NBA seasons with the San Antonio Spurs, Los Angeles Lakers, and Brooklyn Nets, Walker has been one of the most widely discussed free agents in the league, with many puzzled as to why he's not called on for a team for good. Walker, who turned 26 years old earlier this month, signed an Exhibit 10 contract with the Boston Celtics in hopes of earning that last spot on their NBA roster. Boston instead opted to leave that spot open for financial purposes. When the Celtics waived Walker, he could have been claimed by any team on a non-guaranteed minimum contract, but nobody did, and he headed overseas. At 6'4", a 6'4" guard with an impressive 6'10" wingspan, Walker has averaged 9.8 points per game across 322 NBA contests, with 88 of them being starts. He's earned a reputation as a player who could get hot in a hurry as a scorer. Walker also has the best three-point percentage shooting season of his career in Brooklyn last year, shooting 38.4% from beyond the arc on a considerable volume, 4.7 three-point attempts per game, 13.3 three-pointers per 100 possessions. The Sixers utilizing their lone roster spot before making a trade seems unrealistic, but if they truly believe in Walker being a valuable piece, they could look to bring him in once the trade talks have ended. And that is where the story gets interesting to me. The current state of the Sixers team, they do have an available roster spot. Now, why is that the case here? It fully was for the flexibility that this team wanted moving forward. And why does that matter? If you do want to pull off a trade, that is, say, you send out 2 players and bring back 3, or you trade 1 guy and return 2. These are things that are possible by having that available roster spot, that you don't have to work the gymnastics of releasing a player and obviously guys being on the outside looking in. Now, with that being said here, the financial factor is probably a larger deal. And I think this is an indictment on the CBA NBA that the Sixers have taken this direction and many other teams have followed. They are not the only one to only have 14 players on roster when 15 is obviously the max, plus the two-way slots and all that. But they decided that it's better served for the organization for you to have that flexibility, have that available space, rather than having a player that could help the team. And I do think that's a fundamental issue that the NBA needs to fix. But regardless, that is the situation that they find themselves in. Now, I've struggled to get exact answers on all this cap stuff. I have a really hard time wrapping my brain around some of this, and it's only gotten more difficult with the aprons here. Do my best, and I believe I'm accurate with this, but do want to kind of read up on this further before giving a declaration. But when looking at the cap totals here, so the Sixers are a first apron team. They are over that limit there, but you can see there is some availability to that second apron there. Now, what that means is each of these things come with a little bit of restrictions. For the Sixers specifically, the most glaring one in their face is they cannot take in more salary than they send out in a trade. So any trade cannot be that little wiggle room that the NBA allows to make happen there. They have to be sending away more money than they are bringing in is the restriction that they're working with. But what I also believe this means is that you could give Lonnie Walker a minimum contract and not cross that second apron, which is something they absolutely do not want to do. Now, where I think this is interesting from a timeline perspective is that we did get this report when kind of breaking down all this for Lonnie Walker specifically, and shout out to Philly Sixers Galaxy here, that says the Sixers are among potential suitors for former NBA guard Lonnie Walker, as his EuroLeague contract can be bought out by any team before February 18th per the timeline. So why that is an important date is the NBA trade deadline is February 6th. So what does that mean? There is a 12-day window in between that deadline for Lonnie Walker and when really rosters are going to be set from the NBA perspective here, at least from the trade standpoint. So that is really where I think things are going to kick up and that we have a chance to see what is legitimate interest. It would surprise me if the Sixers lead the charge and make this kind of move this early, but I do love that they are in contact and trying to make things happen there. And frankly, if they decided right now that Lonnie Walker is a bigger upgrade than anything that they could get in the trade market, I would have no problem with that decision. I think there is a world where that is the reality. And what part of my frustration with the entire lead up of this season is I thought the whole first half of the year would be a chance to get a sample size of what is this team, what is its missing piece. We really have not had a chance to do that. At the time of recording, I'm recording this before the Jazz game. This will be coming out tomorrow, so shout out to you guys. Hopefully another win in that department. But assuming things go according to plan in that Jazz game, that will only be the 5th game all season that Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey have started and finished together. And as I say that, Joel is officially listed as questionable. I know he's played the last 3 games, so I am optimistic, but that is not even a guarantee. So I bring that up to say I have a hard time believing these Sixers are ready to punt on that decision or, make that this could be the guy without at least trying to see things a little bit further. I understand February isn't crazy far away, but there's a lot of games in between now and then that you will have an opportunity to see, okay, what is this team missing? And I do want to say, I am a Lonnie Walker guy. I love his game. He plays hard. I went to school up in Reading shout out to Alvernia University, where Lonnie Walker's dad is the leading scorer all time at the school. Lonnie worked out on campus constantly. A guy that I would love to root for and be all in. And I do believe he can bring something to this Sixers team. That is the exact archetype of players that you cannot get enough of. These versatile, athletic, long wing/guards that can do a little bit more. I think he's turned himself into a just fine shooter, a guy that could play in potential closing lineups on the Sixers team with the right matchups. To me, this would be absolutely a great move. And I think more than that, it's thinking outside the box once again. I was really skeptical that the Sixers would show any legitimate interest in Guerschon Yabusele because that just wasn't kind of their style of move. That feels like this with Lonnie Walker, that this isn't their style of move, but it clearly has worked out swimmingly with Yabusele and everything that he's bringing to the Sixers team. So I'd love for them to kind of, fish in that pond once again. Essentially, when you can create this pathway to where you're bringing in overseas talent, it is like, uncharted land there that you don't have to go through the draft process. You don't have to compete and trade for a guy, that you can just kind of pick up guys and pull them over. And I do think that's going to happen more and more, particularly with these same CBA restrictions that I'm speaking of. So I do think the Lonnie Walker conversation is a little more complicated because of the financial aspects that hide behind things. I guarantee there are teams right now that look at, and the Celtics are a clear-cut example of it. If they obviously liked Lonnie Walker as a talent, they brought him in on an Exhibit 10 deal, and why he's overseas as the other part of that is he makes $77,000 a year on an Exhibit 10. Now, granted, you can sign, that's not the worst money in the world from normal people perspective by any means. You can sign me up for that. But for Lonnie Walker, he can make more than that. Shout a guy like Miles Powell, who obviously stuck around a little bit with the Sixers team, was on a 2-way contract for a minute, basically was, a fringe NBA talent. He's going making multi-million dollars playing in China right now because he is that desired asset, that he can be that guy. So I get it from all sides of things here. I do think Lonnie Walker does have that burn to want to get back in the NBA, and he should. I would love it if the Sixers are the team to provide them that pathway, but I do think that they will be playing the long game, at least at this point in time. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is Lonnie a difference maker on the Sixers team? I think there is a world where that could be a true statement right there. But let me know what you guys think below. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. As always, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video, and I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.